Hey kids, it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We have another Les Paul type instrument on the bench today. It's one of those same old stories. This was my first guitar when I was young, but we have what I believe is an early Japanese 70's Les Paul style guitar, so let's get to work. Basically what we're looking at here, let me get my camera set. Yeah, clearly it's a Les Paul style instrument. It's got some weight to it. It's not a. I checked it out a little bit. It's not a terrible instrument. Got a piece of binding coming off up here. I did plug it in. It's making a lot of noise. I'd really like to hear it do something, but the problem is. You know what? I probably have some right in here. Normally I would tell you never do this, but because this is going to end up getting a full rewire, I'm just going to take some emery and clean up this output jack a little bit, because I do want to hear it make sound a little bit, but it's got more problems than usual. Number one, every pot in it is absolutely frozen. Can't turn it up, down. So that led me to open up the back, of course, and we'll get to that in a second. But I really want to hear it make a noise. It wouldn't before because the output jack is so gacked, but I just cleaned it a little bit and sprayed some deoxit in there, and usually that'll do it. Let's see if it gets angry at me. Oh, yeah. There we go. So I can't tell if we only have one pickup working. This side doesn't work, and the neck pickup, but I think they're both working. There it goes. Probably that needs some spray too. Yeah, it's an old guitar. You know, the guy said it was literally his first instrument, and I can see a lot of green everywhere. A little deoxit in there will usually clean that up. There we go. Of course, I can't turn the knob, so both pickups are working. I think we might be able to save that, but what we found was, aside from cosmetics, it's actually in pretty good shape, but there's a little piece of binding here that's kind of coming undone. As long as we're careful with it, we could probably put some super glue on that and fix it. It's not nitro because I took a little bit of wax cleaner spray and cleaned it up, so I'm sure that the rest of it will come to life. It's typically got some pretty cheap tuners on it. The tuning pegs look better than the actual tuners are, but we'll get to that as well. See if they're all working. So we know it makes sound. That's a plus, because I try to quote as fairly and honestly as I can when I'm working on this. This is basically going to be a restoration. Because of this, they're not turning at all. I was able to carefully pry one of these are actually pretty nice witch hat knobs. It says tone on it, tone, volume, and they look really, really good. So if I can save them, I'm going to try to, but you gotta wonder what's happening there. And then what do we find? It's bolt-on neck, as you can see. It says made in Japan, and that doesn't scare me at all. I'm sure we can make it play and make it work, and we'll bring it back to life. And you know, this is a family heirloom or such type instrument where the guys, you know, it was my first guitar, and he brought in his real Les Paul with him when he came in, and that just needed a minor adjustment. I sent him packing with that one, but this one has got an early version of a circuit board, printed circuit board back there. An early version of it, because all they did was take the lugs from the pots and bend them over, run it through the circuit board, and attach them there. So this guitar is going to have a rewire in its future. We're going to get rid of that garbage if it'll all come out, which I don't know if it will or not. I'm hoping that once we unbolt everything, it'll just pop right out. But you never know. You never know. Might have to just leave that in there and disconnect it all. Even when modern Gibsons come into my shop and they have circuit boards in them and the customer's complaining about things cutting out or not doing what they're supposed to, I tell them right off the bat, modern Gibson or not, get rid of that crap. Printed circuit boards do not belong in guitars. Sorry. If you got an active guitar, you got a printed circuit board in there somewhere probably, but this is not an active, and we're going to put it back to what I think it should have been born with, which is just some good CTS pots in there and maybe an output jack, and if we have to, a three-way switch, but I don't know. We'll see. It's actually in tune. So he brought it to me in tune. I'm going to pull this and make sure that the truss rod works. I don't know what condition it's in. It's got some relief, but probably not enough. Just to see. Yeah, it's pretty tight. So we need to make sure that's working. That's first and foremost. The string action based on where it's at right now is string height says pretty high. Almost 7/64 and 4. So hopefully all this stuff is not frozen. I'm sure it's just age more than anything has affected this instrument. That's what I'm thinking. So in this video, as you can tell, it's just an evaluation. We're going to de-string it, and we're going to get we know the pickups are working. We know the three-way switch is working, although it was a little wonky. We may just do a dismantle. It's ironic, I just had a Les Paul in here for the same kind of stuff. Needed a rewire. That looks like a big honking, 5 mil. Probably 4. Always look bigger than they really are. It is a 5. Ooh. So it is working. It is a one-way truss rod. They really didn't have two-way truss rods back in the 70s. I am hoping that's probably why the string action is so high. Whoever tried to work on it and did the last setup on it. It did release and it did tighten up, so before I take anything apart, I'm going to tune it up to pitch and make sure that we're going to be, because if that truss rod isn't going to be able to make it play right, then he's going to put 10s on it. Oh, these are backwards. on the treble side are backwards. Tuners are backwards. So they put the same tuners on both sides. That always makes me chuckle. Let's see, did I get enough relief? I hope so. Actually, I did get some relief. And I can go back the other way a little bit. So that's good news. That is good news. I actually loosened it, and it broke itself loose, and it can actually take a little bit more. So we'll have pressure on it and just enough. So that is good news. We can proceed. So the parts box is going to start building with this guitar. We're going to de-string, and I'll be back in a moment. And then we're going to try to knock these off in preparation. We're going to take the pick guard off in preparation for getting the electronics out of it. And then continue the dismantle, and we'll get started with this thing. Yeah, stand by. So it's not that these are the wrong tuners on there. They were strung backwards. That's why the tuners were operating backwards. De-strung. I'm going to glue that before I get too far ahead of myself. Everything down here is loose, but I am going to take them all the way out, because just to facilitate cleaning the instrument better. This is not going to be as much of a full restoration as I thought, because it's actually in pretty good shape. It's just hasn't been. The studs don't want to come out. Studs are set. Don't want to move. That's fine. Those seem tight. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Oh, it was strung backwards. That's why the tuners were working backwards. This is going to be the tricky part. Getting all of these off, so I hope that they will work to keep the vibe of the originality of it, that, you know, customer likes and wants them. This is how I do it. And it's usually you spin it, turn it, you pull up on it slightly, you pry it, and then you turn it. Well, because it doesn't want to turn at all the pots are frozen. You just got to be ultra careful. And if it looks like they're not going to cooperate, move to the other side and try that. And I'm going to switch to a bigger screwdriver to give a bigger footprint on it. And don't get overzealous with this. Usually once you just a little bit, they will pop off. So we saved the second one. I'll get those off in a minute. Mostly because I don't want to film it if one of them breaks. If you're really careful, they should come off. If you're really careful. I really don't want to get into a full restoration on this because, well, it is what it is. I mean, it means a lot to the client, but I think the guitar is going to stand tall. Just cleaning it up and putting everything back. If I have any really rusty hardware, I'll just replace it. Like the strap buttons are just green, and when I tell you green, I mean which means they're brass. They've turned green over time. I really want to move on with this. Stand by while I get these other knobs off. So happy days. The knobs came off nicely, so they're going to go on. I already have new pot here. I got 4 pots sourced out for it. Hopefully they'll fit on these pots. I don't know if they will or not. No, they seem tight. These Asian offshore knobs are always different. I don't know why they can't stay with standard stuff, but the knurls, there's a different number of knurls. Now what I usually do is I will squeeze that split shaft a little bit and the knob will accept. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Down here we're gonna unwire it. I just want to get it off. This one is going to be the bridge, I'm assuming, and that's going to be, so we're just going to snip them off. There's no reason to try to save them. We got plenty of lead to get in there and rewire it. Ground. I'm going to say that goes to the bridge, so that's got to be bridge. Off you come. Off you come. I don't know why they would have had all of this shenanigans like this unless they were trying to split. I'm thinking that this, he said there was never any work done on the guitar. And in the 70s, there just wasn't, that I'm aware of. I could be wrong. Multiple leads. We're going to have to figure out what's common, what's north, what's south, but that's going to be our bridge. Just a little piece of tape just to remind me, so hopefully I don't have to pull the pickups out of it, but sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Put a B on that. Alright, somebody got their mitts on my black pen. There it is. Yup. Dismantle. It's always the easiest part of the job. See, this neck pickup only has, and something doesn't make sense there because, oh, that's going to be our, this is going to be our switch. That's why, because the pickups only have, this is our pickup, or three-way switch, sorry. Pay attention, Luch. This is going to be our bridge. Yeah, that explains it. So we're going to have to trace those wires back and see what's what, but that's not that hard. So this is bridge. And that one is our three-way. Yup. This is going to be our neck. Easy. That is going to be our bridge ground right there, which is a solid wire. I'm not digging on that too much, but that's the way they did it. That's output jack. That can come off completely. It's funny, I just did a Les Paul the other day. Just did a Les Paul the other day. Stupid circuit boards. I got an idea. Let me just snip it off. We don't need it. We don't need it. Taking them apart is easy. Putting them back together sometimes takes a minute. sometimes takes a minute. You follow? We'll get it. Little green caps in there. 11, I'm gonna guess. Yep. I'm gonna reuse the pointers. Reuse the pointers. I'm not gonna reuse the nuts. Get all this off and to facilitate cleaning the guitar up a little easier. All original, I'm assuming. Oh, by the way, it's a Bradley. We're going to call it the Bradley M1A1. What was the name of that Bradley tank from the... And there comes our printed circuit board. Yahtzee. I think I'm going to put some shielding tape down in there just because I can, and it's the right thing to do. All of these are frozen up. I've never seen them all the way frozen solid like that. Interesting. Let's get the output jack out because we're probably going to put a new one of those in. And although I made it work, I don't trust it. I don't trust it. I'm going to put some shielding tape in the bottom and maybe a couple of strips up. You don't have to do it, but it's kind of like building a Faraday box. Why is there a gap there? Oh, the route. Okay. It's kind of like building a Faraday box. It reduces humming, 60 cycle hum and stuff like that. I might get some down in there. I don't think we'd have to. It looks like it's got shielding paint in it. Rusty. Crustiness. Oh yeah. The binding is cracking all around it, but it's all attached. It's just, you know, kind of like a patina cracks. But I've seen this kind of binding used in, you know, from the 70's. And, yeah, it's actually sprouting. It's proud to the surface of the guitar. I've seen the 70's type of stuff that they did. And it doesn't bode well. You start using the guitar and this stuff will start chipping sooner or later. And there really isn't a whole lot you can do with it. I refer you to the Paul Stanley Les Ibanez Iceman that we did last year. The same kind of binding. It was just coming apart. It was not in good shape. This one's definitely in better shape. Boy, this little output jack plate screw does not want to come out. Get out of there. Why are you giving me such a hard time? Probably because they're rusty. I'm not putting those back in. In fact, I think we're just going to chuck those ones out. Oh yeah, this output jack has had the course. It's done. What is down in there? Okay. So dismantling is pretty much done. There's not a whole lot to the wiring on it. I'm just going to put regular, probably little orange drops on it, or I think I have, yeah, I got little red drops. It'll work just fine for it. So yeah, we're going to Clean up the guitar is going to be the next step, and which won't take long because the guitar really is not in bad shape at all. And then we'll go to sizing that stuff up. Stand by. So the last few things we did off camera, just to catch up, I mounted all the pots. We're getting ready to do the wiring, and it's important that you take time to measure them. I used long shaft because there's plenty of room depth-wise in the cavity, and it gives me plenty of room to do the soldering. Sometimes I do it outside, sometimes I do it in. It depends on how much room is in there. This one's got plenty of room and depth. So you measure them and you make sure that all your knobs, and I was able to make the knobs work. I did some cleanup off camera. Got the front part cleaned up, and it's actually in pretty good shape. It's just got a little bit of wear on it. Of course, it was, it's 50 years old. And we're going to stop there. I did, point of interest, I did put some, you can see it, some copper shielding down in the bottom. That's kind of a redundant common ground that grounds everything together. I checked continuity on the ground that comes from, on these particular type of instrument. You have a ground right there. There's a little tiny wire that comes through. And what it is there's a ground wire down underneath that thread set that's in the body. Makes contact with that, comes through into the control cavity for your pots and everything, or your electronics. And to check continuity, it's real simple. You just want to touch it and make sure that it's making continuity. Goes to 0. That's all. You don't want to get all of this done and find out that wire is broken somewhere between that thread set and the body that goes to the strings and what have you to ground the instrument. I'm also going to put a redundant ground from pot to pot here, but that's it. We were able to save the client's knobs, so that it's got the original witch hats on there. They came off. I had to do a little finagling with the split shaft to get them to fit, but they will fit. I don't know why that's not a common thing where, they're all the same with the same number of knurls on the end of the pot shaft, but they're not. But you can finagle it and make it work. And they're on there and they're good and they're all measured and look nice and even. So that's where we're going to stop for today. The three-way switch is the square box kind. I don't like them. I'm going to put another three-way switch in there. I'm going to get that one out of there, and I'll probably reuse the wiring. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm going to get that out of there and put a traditional Les Paul style, I think a short one will work in there just fine. And that's that. So we're going to call that good for today. We got a lot of work done on this thing. It's Blackjack with 396 guitars. We're doing another rewire and semi-restoration on a Les Paul type instrument. We'll talk soon. Remember, if you dig what I'm doing, like and subscribe. And remember, please share.